All right, everyone. Thank you all for being here. Special call council meeting pursuant to KRS 83A 130 subsection 11, KRS 61 at 823. A special meeting for the City Council, City of Walton, Tuesday, June 20th. If I could, everyone, if you're able, please stand for invocation of the pledge. Heavenly Father, thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for allowing us to live in a country and a community to where we can have these discussions. Lord, I ask that you bless this council. Lord, I ask that you bless the city. Lord, I ask that you bless our firefighters, our police, and our first responders in general. In your son's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The most beautiful thing to witness. That whole group.
Yeah.
If I may, Giovanna, could I get a roll call, please?
Rose Beach.
Here.
Amy Long. Here. Terry Courtney.
Here.
Sherry Snowden.
Here.
Dan Martin.
Here.
Matt Brown.
Here.
Right. If I could please get an approval of the agenda for a special call meeting.
Motion approved.
I think Rose was second. Second.
Rose Beach.
Yes.
Amy Long.
Yes.
Terry Courtney.
Yes.
Sherry Snowden.
Yes.
Dan Martin.
Yes.
Matt Brown.
Yes.
All right, real quick announcement. We will have a anticipation of tonight's meeting having some questions and being a little lengthy. We will have another special called meeting next Tuesday, the 27th, 7:15 here at the Senior Center as well. We'll go ahead and we'll start the public hearing on the Fire District Law Enforcement Training Center at the city property, the Owens property. I have in attendance, besides our council here, I have Lieutenant Colonel Brad Degenhart. He is the chief of Lakeside Park and also the president of Northern Kentucky Police Chiefs Association. I have Chief Joey Vest here. Matt Bogan, our city engineer. Eric Chambers with Branstetter Carroll. And our other guest is Chris Owens, Dr. Owens' son. So, get into this project, this property. How this came to be, we started, well, obviously this started when Dr. Owens donated this park, or this property, to the city, in which it will be a park. This has been 2 years running now, since December of 2020. Property is approximately 58 acres. The section portioned off that would be the proposed joint fire and police training site is 11 acres. It is off of Powell Lane. It is in the northeastern portion. There's been a pretty good indication for a need for Northern Kentucky spot for a training facility for the police. I've come to learn this, same as the need for a Walton Fire training facility through my travels and my 5 years of being mayor here. We started a discussion with Chief Vest when we had this land, through his and I's occasional monthly, bi-monthly lunch, about the possibility of doing a fire training facility here. through the King County Mayor's Group meeting and through the Boone County Mayor's Group meetings, I've come to hear the need for this. So there was the opportunity, originally wanted to put the fire district in the back. Proved to be a little costly. So where we're looking at now, where the council approved fire training facility would be, is that red highlighted area you'll see on the screen up there. That takes up some good road frontage property, but it's manageable and it's doable. So in giving that, started discussions of possibility with Steve Hensley of Homeland Security, works for Kenton County as well, and with the Police Chiefs Association of the possibility of this. We sat down to look to see what it would be like and if it was feasible to tuck a site back into the woods here on the thickest, most outermost part of the site. In our discussions with Chief Vest and Lieutenant Colonel Dagenhart, thought came up of why not just combine the two, open up this road frontage. Currently, we've made some adjustments. We've, from the original plan to now, we've scaled back. Now currently looking at about 11 acres. It's my belief that this will ultimately not only benefit northern Kentucky, it will greatly benefit the city of Walton in the means of public safety with the fire training facility as well, especially with being joint fire training facility, fire and police. It will save your fire district money on the cost. I believe it'll make our park a much safer place. And I believe it'll make the areas that most of us travel daily. And I base that off of the sheer numbers of knowing the numbers of people that live in Walton versus the people that work in Walton and live in Walton at the same time. It will make the areas that we travel, it will allow their police departments easier training to where they normally now have to go to either Bowling Green or wait to go to Eastern. Chief Vest, Brad, either one of y'all have anything you like to add?
Yeah, so as the mayor said, right now our main resource for training is at Eastern Kentucky University. It's the Department of Criminal Justice Training. So usually with that distance of travel for training, we are lodging officers in dormitories or hotels and then having to pay a per diem for their food and things like that. So most agencies are incurring the cost roughly $500 to $600 per week of training per officer, which can add up significantly. Having something that's more localized like this would be a great resource to the agencies, and it would allow us to not have to budget as much for the travel, meals, lodging, things of that sort, having to travel to Eastern Kentucky University.
Good. And thank you, sir. And just to add to that, this is not a state facility. This is local. These are local officers. This is serving the northern Kentucky region. This will serve Boone County. Boone County has their own indoor firing range. They do not have a training center. They do not have drivers' course and some of the extra amenities as well. With the training facility for the fire, we currently go to Hebron. Chief Vest and I have talked, and Chief has spoken with council on what the overtime cost per annum is, just to send people. Chief, would you like to chime in on any of that?
Sure. For me to send the crew to the fire training center for 6 hours of training a week right now at the staffing levels that I have currently, which are being worked on and increasing all it would cost approximately $700,000 taxpayer dollars per year, just specifically for that training. That does not include regular staff, personnel, anything for normal operations. That is just to pay them to go for training. I have to have a crew and pay them overtime to cover the fire district because I'm taking not only personnel, but much needed emergency equipment apparatus. I'm not only pulling personnel from the fire district, but also much needed equipment and apparatus and sending it out to Hebron to the fire training center, which is the county training center. Again, that's for 6 hours of training a week, and over the course of a year, that would get us basically at our minimum that we need.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Will you turn your mic on too? Thank you.
I'm just used to being loud, so I'm sorry. And I'm not used to having this many people. Eric, we have in your packet here, we have a site master plan, phase 1 and phase 2 of what this would look like. In addition, there's a park legend as well for what an overview for a master plan for the park would look like. Eric, would you care to go through any of that?
Sure. So Jonathan's going to be my Vanna White here, and he'll point so you guys can see. But basically, on the western side of the page, or the left side of your page, the park, around the lake, we've got various shelters, restroom buildings, pavilions. There's some playground area, as well as a fishing dock. There is a kayak canoe launch up where the old house is located, and as well as some rope playgrounds, a beach area along the lake, number 13 there. There is a rock climbing area there in 14, up on the top left corner. And then 15, you see that kind of white area over the trees between the park and the training center. That is actually proposed as a disc golf trail that meanders through the wooded area. And so that'll utilize quite a bit of that acreage there. The training portion up on the upper right, as the mayor's been speaking about, what we have there is that large kind of square area in the middle. That is the skills training pad. That's basically a large concrete pad that the fire department and police can utilize for various road course trainings that they do with their apparatus and their vehicles. You can see there in letter A, there's a blue and a red. Those are training classroom buildings, so that they have a lot of classroom training that they do before they go out onto the skills pad or into a tactical training room. And so that's what those buildings are for. The letter C there, you see that red kind of L shape up on the top. That is your burn building that was originally proposed being down closer to the front entry of the park. It's been moved to the back so that the fire can do their training with that. There is an old cow pond that's back there that we're proposing would be utilized for retention for the storm water and things that would obviously be up in that area, so that we're not draining that down into the park area. It gives us a resource right there. And then the two small buildings you see there labeled letter D are just basically, for lack of a better word, pole barns that allow for some tactical training for the police to do indoors for them. So that's kind of the phase 1 look at the training proposal. That's 11 acres. You see there's quite a bit of green space that's left there around the training facility. As you flip back to your Phase 2 plan, really nothing changes other than there is potential land area there for some potential future training opportunities for fire as well as police. Some of those would be extraction areas where they can practice cutting up cars, cutting up over-the-road trucks for servicing if something happens on the interstate, those type of things. And then there's some, and then the letter L there at the bottom, it's kind of a long L shape. That is a potential for an indoor gun range, not an outdoor, but an indoor. That's in police training, the indoor ranges are becoming more of the, I guess, the desired or trendy thing for training in that regard instead of the outdoors. It allows them to be able to train all year round and not have to worry about inclement weather, especially in an area like we're in, where you have rain and snow and those potential cold weather. And so that would allow them that opportunity there as well. So really between Phase 1 and Phase 2, it's just some additional props that are added to that 11 acres that we show there on Phase 1.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see. All right. Now, I have seen, and, you know, whether you know it or not, I've heard some of the comments and people I've talked with. We have, we've done our best to look at this several times from the inception of the idea. I have seen, I understand that people would say that this property was donated to be a park. I understand that. I would say, if you'll look at your third page here, when Dr. Owens and I sat down to finalize the gift agreement and between discussions with our good counselor here, myself and Dr. Owens, you'll notice the highlighted section there is use of gift. Property shall only be used by donee exclusively for public purposes. There's a very specific reason for that. Dr. Owens and I, neither one of us wanted this property to ever be sold. We did not want some city council, some mayor years down the road to sell it. Nothing against Amazon, I'll just throw them out there, but they didn't want it to be sold off. He wanted this to remain a public purpose. Even in our discussions, you know, he at one time told me that, you know, maybe the city would want to put a city hall there one day. And I told him I like my city halls on Main Street. I think it's vital to a city. But Dr. Owens understood public purpose. He was aware of the fire training facility before he untimely passed. And I do believe that this project, by doing this, I believe it will add to his legacy, and I believe he would approve. I have his son, Chris, equally as wonderful of a man as here. Chris, would you like to speak? I know you're on a time crunch.
First off, good evening. So thank you for inviting me. Mayor Brown has told me about some of the concern about the property, and best way I can put it, in my father's words, you know, he was about making a difference. When he donated this property, he did want it as a park. If he was here today to hear about how to help police and fire, he would be all for that. He was Hamilton County Coroner. He also was on the board for the Cincinnati Fire. So a lot of police and firemen come up to me and just tell me how wonderful it was to work with him. He's about protecting life. And if this can help save lives, he would be all for it. And as I look at the blueprints, it doesn't seem like that would be a big deviation from its true purpose of being a park. And I look forward to spending time and coming down here and seeing this. So if there's any question about the Owens family donating this to help police and fire, we are 100% behind it. As long as the purpose remains as a park, and a little bit of that can help police and fire, we're pretty happy about that. So that's why I wanted to come down and express my support for this. And please, if there's any questions, please ask, let me know. But I think this is a win-win for this community to do that. I think you'll still be able to enjoy the park, but also be able to help fire and police protect us a little bit better here in Northern Kentucky. Thank you.
Thank you for your time with us. I appreciate you being here. Folks, we can go on and on about my thoughts on this and everything, but the point of the public forum is to allow you all to ask questions and allow you to give your input. We'll go into a Q&A session if people, I'm assuming people have questions they would like to ask. I have the experts up here. I'll fill in if it's in direction towards myself. And then we'll go into a public comment section afterwards. If you would like to speak either for or against or just give some general input, please sign in, I would ask, so that we can have some notes going forward. So if you have a question of either the chiefs or myself or any of council, just raise your hand and we'll call on you. First one I saw.
That's $700,000. How many more firefighter paramedics would that come on?
That would put a little more than 2, almost 3 per shift additionally. Right now, to date, I have 9.
So that would staff an additional pumper?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that would be per year.
You had yours and I got you next.
Will there be any big equipment going up Percival Road, because you know how small it is, like fire trucks or?
Be chief there. Equipment going up Percival, I mean, there will be fire trucks, but it's not, you're not gonna have
Yes.
7, you don't have 7 fire trucks, but there will be vehicles back there.
There would be some vehicles as far as fire trucks, apparatus. It would be, for the most part, kept to a minimum. It would just be the on-duty staff who would be taking apparatus they needed to respond on emergency calls to the training center. My plans as far as the classroom building is to have, I'd like to have a garage, an oversized garage basically, have one engine there that we would use specifically for training. It would double up and serve the community as a reserve engine if need be. But the main purpose behind that is we bring the apparatus we needed to respond on an emergency call. We would park it or stage it there. We would train using the equipment on the training engine. And if we had an emergency call, we just shut everything down and leave it, go on the apparatus that we needed to respond to the emergency call. And then after we was done with that call, come back, we could clean up.
What about tile lane? That's only big enough for one car. How you gonna get
Yes, sir.
tile lane?
And that would be a question for the engineer, but I'm sure that there would be something done to widen that and pave it, I'm assuming.
Yeah, we haven't discussed that in specifics yet, but since Powell Lane is a private drive right now, the city would need to acquire some right of way and would make improvements on that to make it feasible for truck access.
Stephanie?
My question is the sewer connections, where are they coming from, what direction, and what size of line's gonna be ran?
We haven't gotten far enough to size the lines yet, but there's already plans to run a sanitary sewer down to the east of the lake from Mullen Drive. So we would tie into that. And for the water, we would just run run a line off of the lake, just have a dry hydrant to collect water as we need it.
What about?
There's also the line at the end of Powell Lane from Northern Kentucky Water District.
Okay, because the end of the line from Walton, before it goes into Northern Kentucky, they're both 8-inch lines. The fire training center in Colorado, here in the state training facility, is serviced by a 12-inch main, and we have a pit that's a 6-inch by 1.5 inch. Explain to me how that is feasible here.
Honestly, we haven't gotten that far yet into design. We're still kind of going through the general layout of the site, but Chief and I work together to make sure that they've got the resources they need. If that requires upsizing the line on Percival, we can look at that.
So would you upsize the line from US 25 here all the way back? Because it's a 10-inch main at the US 25. It goes to a 6-inch main under the railroad to an 8-inch. So if you have to replace the whole thing, what kind of stuff you have to do for the Norfolk Southern to go under the line?
I don't believe we'll be going that way. We, more than likely, we'll be going up Powell Lane off of the stubbed out line from Northern Kentucky.
So we lose water revenue, or we lose water from using our own water, our own source?
Not necessarily. They have a line there. I have a partnership with them, a good relationship with them. They would be more than willing to work with us. We've already conceded in other dealings with them for the Southern Water connection. They've given up some space of what was currently theirs, as is, for when we're able to complete our Southern Water connection. Currently, we're just waiting on a facility to be built from them on Green Road for that connection to happen, but we'll be picking up some addition. I know the PE at Northern Kentucky Water for 5 years better now. Like I said, we have a good relationship. I don't believe that we'll be really losing anything, and there's a very real possibility that they would let us overtake that, as long as we're not expanding further out into to their district. I believe that was the cause for the Southern Water connection. Now, as far as the state facility, I can imagine the state facility probably, and Chief, you might be able to better answer this, the state facility for the fire in Hebron services a lot more than what your needs are and what your needs are going to be. And as far as the classrooms, I can imagine they're not going to need much more than toilets, showers, and running water for a kitchen and a coffee maker here too.
Correct. The State Fire Commission mandates that we have a couple shower facilities, obviously restrooms, things of that nature. As far as the fire training itself and the burn building, that is more about technique with things that we do. We would not be spraying a tremendous amount of water like if it was an actual building on fire. The fire that we would put in a burn building is really nothing any bigger than you would have in your backyard fire pit. So we would not have any big raging fires that would require thousands of gallons of water to put out. And to be quite honest, the fire that we would build in the burn building, you could put out with a fire extinguisher. It's not about the fire. It's about the advancement of the hose. It's about technique. It's about keeping low, smoke conditions, being in the enclosed metal container. You got the smoke, you got the heat building up because it's similar to being in an oven. And that gets the firefighters' heart rates up, and it makes conditions as realistic and a safe environment as we can get it. So it's not about the extinguishment of a fire, because the extinguishment of a fire itself would be no different than having a small garbage can out in the middle of a parking lot and putting it out.
Actually, I've got one gentleman in front of me, and I got you. Yes, sir.
On the police training side of it, are there any proposals for any outdoor exercises that would involve simulated fire, simulated explosions, anything aside from the indoor gun range, we won't be hearing guns like that all the time?
No, and that's one of the reasons for the tactics building too. That would not be what we would call a live fire building. So the only building that would potentially have any live fire in it would be a firing range if it was approved. The tactics building is essentially a shell of a structure inside of a roofed-in area. What that allows us to do is design walls, windows, doorways that we can move around. We can block some windows, block some doors, create other openings. So it kind of multiplies the amount of training environments we can create within one structure. And that would be to where, the officers would be using either simulated weapons, what we call a force on force. It's essentially a paintball round is what it is. Doesn't nearly make the noise that a normal firearm would make. But most of the time it's going to be, we call them blue guns. They're essentially plastic training guns that simulate the weight and size of a normal firearm. But that's what we do to keep it what we would call a sterile environment.
Just to add to that, I believe the tactics building is also will be multi-use with the fire department as well. Okay, Dave.
Thank you. So I've seen a lot of information, heard a lot about the fire training facility, and it sounds like a wonderful thing. I'm not, as a citizen, I'm not crazy about it eating up the space in the public park area, but I do understand the need. And what I like about that is there's a clear plan, there's a vision for how that's going to be executed. I can see that it's tangible. We're going to save $700,000+ a year. It's going to help with insurance, but I've yet to hear anything that's a tangible benefit for the citizens with regard to the police training facility. Do you help me understand that?
Absolutely. For one, I think, as I alluded to earlier, this not only helps. These are all local officers. Some of them live in town here. They all live in communities that we go through. Currently, we pay $0 to the Boone County Sheriff's Department for their services here in town. They are as well, just like everyone else, besides their indoor range, they are sending their deputies, our deputies, to Bowling Green, to Eastern. So it is costing you as a Boone County taxpayer or a Walton taxpayer overall with your county taxes that goes towards it. It is costing you that effect, so it will help in that regard. I believe as far as this park goes, the actual remaining 40-something acres, you're not going to find a safer place to be if you've got, both sides of the emergency responders on site here. I mean, this city's had several problems at our main park with vandalism, crime, same with the Gaines Tavern. Frankly, this section of the property is going to be extremely difficult to surveil if just left alone, left up to whatever device. I think that overall this will benefit the city of Walton greatly. I think it benefits the area just in having a police presence, an additional police presence. I do believe, and I do believe that having this here will also is going to open up a little bit more of grant opportunities that previously, and 3 times now, we've been turned down for. Grant writing for anything recreational is highly competitive. There's limited funding. I believe this has something that makes us stand out. I believe it's an opportunity to do something for the greater good, to make our region better, to make our state better, to make our city better. And yes, for a benefit, people often talk about, and myself and councils and previous councils have looked into and discussed, and we've seen the comments about potentially bringing back Walton Police Department. That will be part of it. If and when, and it's more like when, we won't be bringing back a Walton PD tomorrow, but probably within 5 to 10 years, we will have a need for it, and we have to figure out how to start working on that. So that will be part of the stipulation, is that we will not pay to train there. And with the Chiefs Association, they, all the different agencies that would be back there, they will contribute to the Chiefs agency, correct? Yes, ma'am. Hi, Jamie.
I have 2 things. First of all, have we not already voted and it been approved that the fire is going to be there, correct?
There is a resolution on the books by council, yes, for the roadside frontage.
Okay, so I just wanted to confirm that because I think that's a wonderful thing, I guess. But my next question is, I didn't think that police could necessarily just come into a community and assume police can, police if they're out of jurisdiction. Is that not correct? I mean, they're gonna be able to go and get our vandals out of the parks and stuff, even though they aren't in jurisdiction of this community?
I don't, Lieutenant Colonel Dagenhart probably helped me out with this a little bit, but I don't believe that's the intent or the thought. They're going to be there to train, but I believe the mere presence is a deterrent. Sorry, you have anything on that?
So there's a couple of caveats to that. One thing, any officer in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, if they observe a felony, they can act on it, even if they're outside their county of jurisdiction, correct? The other thing that we probably see more frequently is that an officer that is a peace officer in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, if they observe something that requires law enforcement action, they can contact the agency who covers that area. If that agency so requests them to assist, that does allow that officer to have the jurisdiction of that agency for the entirety of that incident. So in, particular situation, if there was somebody vandalizing the park, an officer observed that, they could contact Boone County Sheriff's Department, and if they were requested to assist, they would have the jurisdiction to do so.
How much is this gonna cost the citizens? I mean, there's no proposal, how much is it gonna cost?
So one of the things that Chief Vest and I have talked about, and one of the reasons why we thought a combined police-fire campus would be beneficial to everyone, is one of the biggest things that the federal government is looking for when it comes to public safety grants is combined training centers. Whether it be different levels of law enforcement or police, fire, EMS, they understand just from large-scale incidents that have occurred around the country that for having a true homeland security kind of shroud, they need to have that cooperating participation between public safety departments. So this would certainly give us some more avenues and a greater likelihood to achieve federal grants. It is also something that we would approach the legislature as a combined training facility, and that might also make it more likely to get legislative assistance or legislative
You're not
funding.
answering the question. How much is it gonna cost the taxpayers? because you should know before you do this, how much it's gonna cost the taxpayers, right? Not vote on it before, then it's on us.
So we don't have a project amount at this point. It's one of those,
You
if,
don't think you should before you do this?
well, if it's one of the things, if the land is not going to be allocated for that, then, you know, there's no project to be had at that point. But as far as the police side goes, we're not gonna ask for public funds, tax funds. We fully intend on, between legislative assistance and grants and then private funding. Chief, you have anything?
Just one thing to add, as far as the cost and the grant funding and that, we cannot receive any grant money at all until the land has been approved for a training facility to be built. We looked into that, and, you know, my full intentions and plans are to, you know, pay for this in large part, if not completely, you know, with grants. But, you know, they won't even consider a grant in any amount unless we can show them we got the land approved and secured to make this become a reality. So, I mean, I understand and appreciate your question, but we're kind of between a rock and a hard place with that right now.
So what we're doing here right now is just discussing the information before that project. Nobody can start shoveling the
Correct. We need city council to approve the use of that portion of the land for that purpose. Once that resolution agreement is signed, then we can put in applications for grants in whatever amount that we need, and we may get that amount in full or in part.
May I
depending
ask,
on the
I'm
grant.
sorry, Chief, may I ask what's holding up the fire department in their grant search currently, because that resolution was passed for your portion, right?
Because that resolution had the fire training grounds down road frontage, down off of Church Street, basically.
Okay, so there's no holdup in what was passed by council. The holdup is what you're wanting to do in joint with the police union, correct? I mean, I just want to be clear,
Well,
because there's.
the idea and the plans that was presented to me, once city council approved that resolution, was, and I'll say half of this space back here, the idea and the thought was potentially making a law enforcement training facility and then having a road connect from back there all the way down here to the front end of the lake. And that's when myself and the mayor talked and said, wouldn't it be better to open up all this front area here and make the fire and police training facilities one compact campus, making, you know, less infringement on the park and taking up less space, and at the same time being able to apply for and hopefully receive grant money in larger amounts that would be necessary, as well as make it a little easier in finding grants that we would be eligible for. So, you know, I've not signed, nor has the mayor signed the original passed resolution yet, just because I don't want to build a training facility in Walton for our personnel that protect us. I want to build the best training facility possible for the community.
Yeah, no, I'll expand on that. Yes, we have a lease agreement in principle, Counselor. Should this not pass, then Chief Vest and I can absolutely sign that. The thought was, and the reason behind this, and not going forward with that, is we thought that there was a better option, one that would serve both agencies. And ideally, when Chief and I first started looking into the fire training facility, it was still, you know, the place that I really wanted to go with a fire training facility was tucked back and out of the way. Same with this. Road frontage, anybody that's done anything real estate wise or any of that, road frontage is always prime. So, you know, there are houses here, and even though a burn building does not emit a lot of smoke, it is essentially two connexes. I wanted to keep as much roadside frontage as possible, and by combining and moving to the back here, we have opened up all of that for more usable space, much more manageable space for brush clearing, you know, trails and et cetera. So, you know, yes, there is council did pass a resolution. We do have an agreement, you know, and should this not pass, it will be right there on the road in front of everyone's houses.
Maybe not, and that wasn't a concern when you brought it to council to pass. No, it was never a concern of yours, but now I understand how it fits the need. But I would say too that we've discussed this in our brief conversations, that with Chief, we had discussed that if this is not passed, that we potentially could consider moving the fire.
That's certainly a possibility,
Thank
but
you.
I will say, you know, it was not a concern of mine because that was our option. It's a more of from the economic side of things, what it would cost the fire department solely alone, our fire district, not a combined effort of many agencies to move a training facility and build back on Powell Lane. That was the most economical place. If you recall, our original was a triangular area, just roughly along the lower side there. Duke had a power line running through there. Chief Vest looked into what it would cost to move the power line so that it would not be near his burn tower. It was what, roughly 80,000 at a discounted rate for.
Originally, Duke Energy had given me a price tag to move one pole and the lines connected to that pole over to the edge of the property, approximately $100,000.
Okay.
And myself, Mr. Bogan, Mayor got involved, and they had reduced their price down to around 75,000.
Yes, and that's when we went and we came up with what you all saw previously in the red, what's been approved by resolution through council. So it was not because I thought it was the, you know, the absolute most desired place to put them. I thought it was the most economical, and it was what was going to help get them what they needed for a public need. You know, the ultimate goal and the goal in all of this is public safety. You know, with a training facility like this, Chief's biggest goal has been to lower the ISO rating down to a 2, which is the lowest possible rating anyone other than a metropolitan area could ever get. That helps you as property owners, helps with your homeowner's insurance for lower rates, helps with renter's insurance. I don't believe it helps with car insurance, but I'm not an insurance salesman, so I don't know. Chief, any expansion on that?
The cost savings is mainly to property owners, whether that be residential or business. The insurance companies, there's an organization out there that scores fire departments on annual losses, if you will, as far as people's property to fires. They look at our training, they look at our response time, they look at our staffing, they look at our equipment, they look at training facilities very hard. You know, we just went through a ISO evaluation about, what was it, Mayor, year and a half ago, I guess now?
Somewhere around there?
We was right at a 5, and with this evaluation, we are a solid 3. My ultimate goal is to get us to a 2. So the lower your rating is, the lower your insurance is, because insurance companies look at it that the less risk there is as far as fire loss. So the more training we have, the better facilities, the better equipment, the more staffing, our response times improve. Those type things is what they look at to determine how much insurance companies are going to charge you for property insurance. So,
And with all due respect, Chief has done a great job with the fire department and making that his priority. And again, to someone in the audience who stated, right, this has already been voted on, the resolution, so I would just point that in the direction where we're at, which is, that's not gonna change, but I'm sure there are people here who have questions about the police facility.
Yes, I believe that's the portion we were on. I believe our, Kevin, did you still have a question? No, okay. I got Barb here next, and I got you. Okay? And I see you. Yeah, go ahead, Barb.
I have 2 things. First, you're talking about how having a police presence around there would make it safer. We're talking 50-something acres, and they're in the top portion of that. How are they gonna ever see anything going on down here in the park to be able to keep it safe? That's not gonna happen. There's a wooded area between here, so they're up here, people are down here. Things are gonna happen. They happen everywhere, and these days it's happening more frequently. So how would a police presence up here help anything down here? I understand the fire department. I don't have a problem with the fire department. I think the fire department in Walton has done an excellent job, and I think Chief Best trying to get a better rating, or lower rating, that makes no sense, but a lower rating to make things cheaper on our insurance is fantastic. I just don't understand the police presence thing and how it's gonna help the city of Walton residents. It might help the overall community of Northern Kentucky or whatever, but it's not necessarily gonna help the city of Walton.
So to your point, there is probably not going to be a line of sight. In fact, there won't be a line of sight between the main part of the park and the training portion, or the training facility portion. So it would more so be the in-transit times where there would be an increased police presence in transit to and from the facility. And Boone County is part of this Northern Kentucky Police Sheriff's Training Center. So you would have additional Boone County deputies that are normally not in this sector that would be utilizing the training center from time to time. And if there was a significant incident to occur, we're just like the fire department's police use mutual aid quite frequently. If it overwhelms the amount of staffing that they either have in Boone County's case, they have numerous communities to take care of. So they may have a certain amount of officers that are designated to this sector. With your all's close proximity to Kenton County, I would venture to guess you probably see Kenton County Police or Kenton County Sheriff either work with Boone County from time to time or come through the area, because there are some areas of Kenton County that are south of here. So you would have officers from agencies that are part of your protection district that would be utilizing this facility as well.
Does that mean there's gonna be an increase in officers running through the stop signs? Because I mean, we're gonna have a park down there, people are gonna be walking down there, you guys aren't gonna follow the law either, we're gonna have issues with that. So, I mean, you guys are running through stop signs at 40 miles per hour, 20 miles per hour. It's not something people want. They ain't gonna follow the law.
Barb, did you have a second part to your question? Okay.
Okay, so it would be a better response time possibly, but that's still not gonna make anybody safer over here from things happening and them being able to see things happening as they're happening. If somebody calls to report it, yes, they might get there a little faster, but they're not gonna prevent things from happening no more than they prevent things from happening in the park now or within the city. I mean, if you call and report it, yes, a policeman will come, but that doesn't keep things from happening just because they're there.
And it's one of those things that the lack of crime makes it nearly impossible to quantify what effect the police, the visibility of the police is actually having.
Well, I was just trying to make it more clear that when it was said that it would make it safer here, having police presence.
I think Mayor Brown's point is more, if nothing is there except for walking trails, what could happen back there? And so he's
Same
saying,
thing.
if there is something here,
Same thing is
Yeah.
gonna happen if they're sitting all the way back here in the corner. And inside buildings. They're not gonna be outside, they're gonna be inside buildings, supposedly, so that the residents around will hear everything that's going on. My second part of it is, all I hear is that we are hoping to get grants, or we're hoping to get the funding. If this is passed and they're given the property, later on it comes up and say, well, the city gave us the property, we need to have some money to get this stuff done, you know, who's gonna? So eventually, it's gonna come back on us. You can see it happening.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite,
She was just saying if the funding weren't, grant funding weren't, how would it be funded without grants?
Could I
if nothing
answer
came
that?
in, does it come back to us?
well, I'm sure that that will be the finer details, overall of, negotiations to come and finalizing these things. I don't think, as of right now, the plan with the Northern Kentucky Chiefs and the fire district is to seek grants. The Chiefs Association has what was it, 501c3, or has a charitable organization to seek funding from. They also have member cities that have police agencies that, devil would be in the details on that. Those cities and those agencies would be required or have to contribute to use the facilities there. So I'm fairly confident that the money would come for this, and the money won't be on the Walton taxpayers beyond the taxes we already pay for the fire district as is. Now, I don't think the plan at any given point is to have this up, built, and running tomorrow. We'll see here on the phase 1 and phase 2s, I think the two chiefs can speak a little better on it, but this is going to take some time for them to build as well, as far as getting grants and coordinating this. Whether it comes back to the city or not, the city's not giving up the land. We will own the land. So what that looks like, if it's not a feasible option, then we'll get to that. The devil's in the details. There's we haven't sat down and negotiated out and come to terms with every single finer point, because it hasn't been a overall need to at this exact moment. We've agreed on some things in principle, but if this is approved, once this is approved, it's going to be their responsibility on building this out.
So for, Kevin said, for the most part, and I'm hoping that doesn't clear up anything as far as money goes. For the most part, we plan on doing this, and then I hope to have it all paid with that. That doesn't say it's gonna be, and if we, the city, we pay taxes now, that, not city taxes, because I understand city taxes, county taxes are outrageous. And to have them raised again, possibly, to take care of this, only falls back on all of us.
I don't see where county taxes are going to be raised in any regard solely for a multi-county venture. I will, I do have, I will say, I'm not going to single him out, but, when we first started talking about this, I've been in touch with some of our legislator from DC. I've talked with Thomas Massey's representative and Rand Paul's representative. I've brought them in to, get an idea of what was going on, to meet with the chiefs, and to at least have an idea of what they're trying to do in an effort to assist them long-term with getting grant funding. So no, I don't have a crystal ball, and neither do they, but I know what the grant process is like. I've applied 3 years in a row for recreational trails grants on a property that I think is absolutely fantastic and stands out above the crowd, and 3 years in a row have been turned down. So like I said, to start, the grant process is highly competitive, especially when you're only applying for, when you're in the state pool. It's federal dollars, but the state pool is out of those federal dollars. The Commonwealth of Kentucky gets X amount of dollars for X amount of, for whatever fund, recreational trails fund, the wildlife fund. This actually, having this facility here, opens us up for a couple more types of grants. So Homeland Security would open us up for tourism grants, grants that we currently don't qualify for. And I know there's numerous grants that the two chiefs and the police and fire qualify for that aren't park related. It's related specifically to them. And as Lieutenant Colonel Dagenhart alluded to, having the joint training facility is a plus. Same with the grants. Same. Yes, sir.
This lady's had her hand up for the last.
Yes.
half of-
I'm sorry. I was trying to answer her question. Yeah, I got you. Yes, sir. Thank you.
I don't want to interrupt you. Thank you for having the meeting. I just wanted to ask a few questions about the proximity of my property is actually directly bordering the facility. And if you see that white building there, that's our barn. And our house is about probably less than 200 yards from that barn. And so my question is regarding the sound and the volume of the activities. Is the intention to stay within the ordinances, the volume ordinances that are currently in place? Because I'm gonna have 3 small children come
Yes, ma'am.
January. I'm pregnant with my third. And I'm gonna be a stay-at-home mom of a newborn. And I'm concerned about the volume of the training activities outside, and whether or not it's gonna interrupt the sleep and routine of our daily life. And the second question I had was, if and when Powell Lane will be widened, will that be coming off of our property? And if so, what is the plan for discussing that with us? And or, is that something that you have rights to without our permission? Or is that something we need to give permission to and or sale of before that road is expanded?
Well, that's both very good questions. With the sound, I'll let Lieutenant Colonel Dagenhart handle that in just a second. We do have a certain right-of-way up to the county line going in. The road will be widened. It will be improved from the gravel. I believe, Matt, what was it? I believe the 21-foot across was roughly what we were looking at.
That was what we had, yeah, conceptually.
It's gravel currently now, side to side. I'm not sure how much more that would take into any of that. For the Boone County side, once you cross the lines, I believe, yes, there would be some easement acquisition. Possibly, we would need your permission to go through there or paid. That is a process. I don't believe and I don't see that, other than some trees back through there, that it's going to require too much more to widen it to get to that 21 foot. I know it doesn't, anyone that's been down Powell, it doesn't look like it's that wide right now, but it's pretty close with the gravel, but I wouldn't recommend driving a low vehicle back through there too fast. You gotta look out. But as far as that would go with the what the road would look like, yes, there would be an easement acquisition process, and that would be something that we would identify exactly what was needed. We would discuss that with you as a property owner and see if we couldn't come to an agreement on that. As far as the sound, I'll let Chief Vest and Colonel Dagenhart go with that.
Yes, to answer your initial question, yes, it would stay within the confines of the existing noise ordinance statutes and ordinances. I guess the biggest thing would be, like, we're not going to be back there running sirens while we're doing a driving course. And these are going to be, we're setting up cones, making sure that, you know, the officers understand the clearance of their vehicles. Same thing with the fire department. So the issue that we have now is when we use a commercial parking lot for drivers training, oftentimes concrete end caps on the parking lanes, or there's a divider, either a landscape divider or sidewalk divider between the lanes of the lot. So it really restricts the ability, especially with the larger vehicles, to be able to make those maneuvers and really learn the parameters of their vehicle. So it would be one of those things. Obviously, there's a lot of infrastructure concerns or issues involved in a project like this. So if there was a need for a sound barrier or something like that, we would work with the engineers to see if that would be something that would be beneficial or necessary.
They usually have squealing tires and things like that when they're in the thing.
Most of the vehicle operations training that we do is low speed, and like I said, it's like a cones course where, you know, we have things called diminishing clearance, serpentine, different courses like that.
Sir, I got one in front of you, and ma'am.
Okay, so.
And then I got you next.
I'm taking notes. I grew up in Walton, I still live in Walton. I'm also a 20-year veteran of a local police department. Just can I hear you? Can you hear her? You need to hear.
May I share my mic?
I have, Sarah. All right, so I live here, I grew up here, I grew up on Principal. I currently live in Yellowstone on the Walton side. I'm also a 20-year veteran of a local law enforcement agency, not Green County. And I think a lot of what we are hearing here today is not great. No offense, Chief. Don't tell my chief. So I think all police officers have to go to Richmond to get their initial academy training. Everybody does. That's where we go for DOCJT. After that, and we have to be DOCJT certified. After that, DOCJT has to teach us a 40-hour course every year to maintain our certification. I go to that course every year. I have not been to Richmond in probably 13 years. All of my classes and courses have been locally in either Boone County, Airport, Edgewood, Crestview Hills. Everything has been up here because everyone has classrooms. We have a gun range, Boone County has one, Airport has one. We have them. I haven't had driver's training in 20 years because I drive all day. I know how to drive. But when we do training, it's loud. There's yelling, there's sirens. The canines are loud. They bark nonstop. I lived with one for 12 years. There is nonstop barking. They are not going to pay for me to go to additional trainings because we don't have the manpower to train any more than we already do. Because if I'm at this training, they have to pay for me to go because they're paying me for my work day. And then they have to pay for someone to cover me on the street because we are currently like 25 officers down. We can't get people to be cops anymore. So before we have more training, we have to have more cops. Let's see. So who's going to teach the classes? Because we have additional training at our department, but it's during my work day. And when I go somewhere for training, like Boone County, I have my blinders on the way home because I am done with my work day. I'm not going to do more police work. It's just not going to happen. And the visibility of police does not deter crime. We are in the middle of a city where my department is, and people kill people out on the sidewalk in front of our police department. It doesn't matter if we're there
Is there a,
My question was gonna be the police presence is gonna be determined that crime in the neighborhood or in the park. How much of the training do you show up in uniform and for the squad car, with a vehicle?
It depends. Sometimes I would drag my squad car if I don't have my kids to pick up afterwards. If not, I'll be in my personal car. I've never worn my police uniform for police training. Typically in a hoodie,
That's what I
maybe
thought.
cargo pants.
Okay. That was, I was wondering, but they're not gonna be in uniform or in a squad car, so.
I think regarding,
Sorry.
regarding the noise, we talked about this too. I don't think we've really addressed, there's still an industrial park across from this that's being developed. There's 3 warehouses in and out, and that's 3 of 7 of them. They've built a warehouse now, 25, that almost connects back to Jones Road. I live on Jones Road. I can hear people driving up around in that parking lot, and I don't care how much green space is there, they sound like they're in my backyard. So I think forward thinking, we need to take into consideration these warehouses, and when residents move in there, we don't know what kind of noise they're gonna generate. So, just take into consideration.
Is any of this been publicized, like in Wayne County Reporter's not in business anymore? First I heard of this, I live right next door to this triangle here. I found out from a neighbor Friday, and I called you.
yes, sir.
It would be nice if the courtesy that you people of council would notify the local people that live right next door to this.
We put out the information about the public forum on this to discuss this. This has all been very much in an infancy. Council asked that we have a forum to discuss this, so we are here today. In Facebook, thank you. As far as, there was with the absence of a newspaper, I believe Link NKY, I did a brief story on the fire training facility. But as far as, no, I guess it's a better way to answer it. I mean, other than announcing that there's a public forum, yes, sir.
And my neighbor said, "You hear what's going on down at Walton?" I said, "No," and then when I thought about Friday.
I got Nancy and then I got Jennifer. Ms. Ryan?
My concern is just infrastructure, and I think, Stephanie made a real good point, I know nothing about wire mains, but that's stuff that has to be considered. And I'm hearing a lot of, well, we haven't really done that yet, we haven't really thought about that yet. And I feel like that needs to be, there's something needs to be more concrete than what's going on. The fire training facility, that's for our guys, that sounds great, But I feel bad for the people that live on Church Street, I feel bad for the people that live in Aosta Valley and North Point, and Powell, sorry. But, that's what our concern, is that we don't have the infrastructure.
Now, to add to that, and I don't think it's so much that we haven't thought about that, and we haven't, now, the green line that you'll see running down just to the edge of the lake, that is a designed, graded, and engineered plan. That is barring the filing of some easements, that is ready to go out to bid. That is going to go through, that is a designed city project. It is fully one, no, it's the whole city, but this portion here would be a tap into that. That's as simple as, running a line to it. Now, we have, when we say we haven't got the engineering aspect of it, we've identified where we would go, what our ideal spots would be. We have not done sizing, grading, engineering to the degree of a full-fledged plan. And we've done so with good reason because it costs money and it's not needed at this point. But we have sat down and identified where the spots that we could potentially come from and how will we get water and sewer to the spot. The sewer is obvious because we're going to be already having a line going through there. It's the shortest line of distance. And with the water and what Chief needed, we believe that the access off of Northern Kentucky water will be needed. But until there's something concrete and set in stone, there's really not any need other than having an idea, okay, this is what we want to do, how can we engineer it? Like I said, there's a lot to that. I'm obviously not an engineer, but I have a basic understanding of water and sewer. I've been dealing with it with the city for quite some time now. But we do have a very good idea of what we want to do. I've got one more before you. Jennifer, go ahead.
So my question would just be, who's to say there's not a phase 3 and a phase 4 rollout of this plan? I feel like the citizens of Walton, sometimes we have a wool over our eyes. Several years ago when we built Kroger, we were told, I went to the Boone County meeting, and we were told that was going to stay all businesses, and that it would never be residential. And because part of the reason they moved the firehouse there was right to get away from the noise and the citizens for the safety. And so now here we are, flash forward several years, and now we have lots of condos going in, we have lots of apartments, so that's changed. And I don't think the citizens realized that once something went in, it could be changed. I think they felt safe thinking that's gonna all stay businesses. So my concern for this would be, how do we know there's a guarantee that this doesn't have a high-speed chase area, dukes of hazard, whatever you want it to be. And a shooting, outdoor shooting range, like I love Whippy Dip and they have great ice cream in Crittenden, but when I'm out there eating and somebody starts firing at that shooting range, I have lost a lot of good pharmaceuticals of the I mean, if you live here, nobody wants that while you're on your porch drinking tea or in your backyard hanging out with your kids. So how are we guaranteed that this doesn't become really loud and really noisy and deter people from living in our great town and sending their kids here and wanting to stay here? How do we keep this from expanding into something that we're saying right now it's not?
Put it in writing. It's simple as that. I mean, I think the generalization, I understand that concern, and it's a very valid concern, and you're absolutely correct. That is exactly, the change in the way the town center was initially proposed, from my understanding, to what it is. But, you put it in writing. I don't believe, anyone was seeking anything more. I don't think anyone's under any, desire for future Dukes of Hazzard, police jumps, all that. That'd kind of be kind of cool, but that'd be really loud. I can understand that. You put it in writing. This is it. Not going to be dormitories. There's not going to be, no outdoor range. The letter of the law, resolutions and law-binding agreements is, I believe, how you would quell that. And I did have you, young lady, I see you, and I'll get everyone. Yes.
I was just curious, after Nancy was talking, you said that the planning of getting all the fine details, as you said, isn't needed, but I feel like throughout this whole meeting, everybody's been asking the same questions. We need specifics of prices and details and what's going to go into this, and nobody's getting answers, and that's what is needed for us to feel comfortable with it, but you're telling us that it wasn't needed prior to this. I'm just confused.
The engineering, the build out of this is going to be on the fire and police side of things. As far as what the city is looking to incur as an expense, the sewer line project that was running through there is probably roughly somewhere, last I had looked, was about $798,000. Now, that's not being built for this proposed site here. That is being built based on needs of the city in general, based on Aosta Valley and Mullen Drive on their current growth. So I have that. What you're looking at here around the park for our design, that's roughly somewhere near $1 million for everything you see here with grading, build out, shelters, parking lots, docks, things of that nature. So
Who's responsible for Powell Road? I'm sorry. So who would incur the cost of improving Powell Road?
we will seek the easements, but no, the build out will be on the training facility. I believe that was the the understanding from the get-go, is the build out to this is going to be on the police and fire. The city will assist in the easement acquisition. I'll help negotiate the water with Northern Kentucky Water, what that looks like, some of the engineering design. But ultimately, this project is not on our taxpayers. This is,
Is there gonna be something done to Percival Road to widen it? I mean, I drove a bus out there for many, many years, and you have to get off the side of the road just to, if you're not a car. How's this gonna affect traffic?
well, that's a good question, and I'm surprised it hasn't come up a little bit before. Other than the fire district having theirs, I believe, what'd you say, two weeks out of the month for training, approximately 15 to 20 vehicles per training would be on that road. Thank you for that. Now we'll get on to some more questions. Hang on, I've got one in front of you, and I got two in front of you. Go
I
ahead.
think we all pretty much have the same mindset that we're glad to hear about it, but we're all not for it. So with everyone's voices being opinionated, how is it going to be taken into consideration amongst yourselves? What's going to come to this meeting?
We represent you, so that's the effect that's gonna have, so.
Yeah.
We
Right, you
represent
represent us, so, yeah, remember that. How many of you right now say, let's not have fireworks and shooting and everything? How many, let's hear a clap for it. No!
All right, hang on. Stephanie, go ahead real quick.
If somebody wants a dollar
Briefly.
amount, I can tell you, 1 mile of water line, a minimum of $1 million, a minimum of 1 mile.
I mean, he said,
We're not anywhere near it. Hang on, let's have some semblance of order. I'll get to you, sir. I've got people waiting here. Yes, ma'am.
Julie, please, there is nothing new. That's been around for a very long time. I'm wondering a couple of things. Why was this vote on separately for the joint venture?
Amy?
And for the police department specifically?
hang on.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, yeah, no, it was other conversation, I couldn't hear your great question.
I'm sorry. Well, I am a Thin Blue Line family. This police and fire joint district is nothing new. This has been around for many years, okay? First question is, I wonder why this was considered by council individually and not together, since that's what it's ultimately going to be.
It's how it was presented, but go ahead, because we didn't
Well,
get,
but why-
we didn't get anything about the police training facility until these last couple of weeks. We have been talking about the fire facility, and it was brought for a vote for resolution. And then only after, and all the plans are drawn up, and mayors had conversations with others outside of council, do we learn that this is now the new idea.
Okay, well, yeah, it's been around for quite some time. Now, also, a part of that, I know what goes into training, I know the hours that's involved, I know the travel that's involved. My husband has been all through the U.S. for training. People do cover his shift and this kind of thing. He's paid for it on, I get it. But there was a reason why Walton was picked by the police department to join in with
involved. It's just, it isn't just Walton as well, I'm the police department training. So if you could expand on that, and I have to say, it is very, very good to hear from a family member, because that was truly my biggest concern, is that Walton City Council was going against the last wishes of this man. So that is very nice that you guys are bringing it in.
I appreciate that. Hang on one second. Let me respond to this lady. I appreciate that. You know, one, Dr. Owens was my friend. I considered him a very dear friend. We were certainly nothing alike, but we hit it off splendidly well. We had very interesting conversations beyond this property.
My husband knows him from Hamilton County.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Thank you.
that's not, I'm just trying to.
But to answer your question about how did this come about, that's almost exactly how it came about. Where Walton is split between Kenton County and Boone County, I have a quarterly meeting with the Boone County Judge Executive and the other two mayors. Kenton County has a monthly mayor's group meeting, of which I find to be very informative and very interesting, because there's a lot more mayors and a lot more cities. I've participated in that group for 5 years now, and I've sat back, and for the most part, when I hear discussions of the police, you know, I don't really have anything to add. We don't, you know, other than Boone County patrolling and doing you know, the wonderful service that they do for us. You know, I just sit back and listen. So this did come about. I've heard for 5 years now about the desire and the need for retention and cost of training and the need for an overall training facility. I've heard discussions of other properties that have failed or weren't suitable to be built on. And we had this property, and it came up for with my discussions with Chief when we started working on the fire training facility. And so I looked at what it would look like as far as would it be feasible topographically if there were to be a police training facility. So I approached Steve Hensley from the police chief, or from Homeland Security. He's also with the Police Chiefs Association, and asked him, would that be something that would be considered? He said, well, let me introduce you to Lieutenant Colonel Brad Dagenhart, the president of the Police Chiefs Association. So him and I met. I showed him and a couple of the other chiefs what the property looked like, what we were already doing, what we were doing with the fire district, and, you know, ask if this would be a reasonable thing. So,
You basically, you sought this out.
yes,
That's basically what you're saying.
absolutely.
But, man, because you're the head of the Police Chiefs Association, correct? So what was your input on this?
Again, as Mayor Brown said, the connection was made through the Kenton County Homeland Security Director. So, and then we looked at the property. It has been something, last summer is when the Northern Kentucky Police Sheriff's Training Center was formed. And there's a board called the Kentucky Law Enforcement Council, and they are the board that approves all of the training and all of the training instructors for the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Correct, correct. So they awarded us a training center certificate last summer. Since then, we have been hosting classes, but it's been at various locations where there's availability for, you know, training room or different training sites. So as we were starting to kind of figure out, you know, where we could train and what kind of resources we had available to us, that's when the mayor and I happened to start talking about this.
Okay, so did you pick out a company who would oversee building this police training yet? Because I know there's companies that do that.
Yeah, there are. So we have not picked out a company. We were still, it's essentially a feasibility analysis for us at this point.
Okay, so you guys don't know if what's drawn on here will fit the need for the training facility, correct? There could be more changes.
So basically, we had advised Branstetter Carroll and the engineers what we could foresee having a need training-wise, logistics-wise. And that is the entirety of it that we have expressed to them.
So then back with the mayor, please, if there's warehouses going in and this going in, do we see more industry going into this area then?
I'm sorry, how do you mean exactly?
Warehouses are there, there's more
Yes.
warehouses going in. Now we have this facility, these two facilities going in.
Mhm.
So is the plan to develop that more for businesses and things, or
In that immediate area off of Percival and behind?
just think that whole general area?
Yeah, well,
I'm sure you've got plans more than just 2 square miles, I'm sure you know.
sure. No, I mean, other than what's already, what is already zoned and approved for development, no, there's not plans to develop more. We have, you can ask anybody, you know, bringing somebody in as far as, you know, rezoning is, particularly in Boone County, is a difficult venture, and my counsel is no less difficult.
So there's not a 5-year plan?
There's not, other than what the county 2040 plan looks like, there is not. Now, I will say, given the plans that I've kind of, the idea and the thoughts that I've seen from what the state and District 6 does, there will be some development south of town on 25, but that's all outside of city limits. So no, to answer your question, other than what is in the Omaha or the Omaha development, what they have slated, that's all that we have, and anything else would be already zoned for. So if somebody buys a piece of property and puts something on it, then they do. But as far as us annexing in or you know, somebody clearing off land beyond that, no, I don't believe so, and it's not our intention. Okay, I had Howard and you, sir, and then Phyllis. Actually, Phyllis and then you, sir. I had you. Phyllis, you waved your hand a long time ago. I'm sorry. Howard, go.
For the Lieutenant Colonel, he didn't get a chance to respond to his fellow officers' comments and stuff, and I'd like to get a response.
I think we were all still waiting for a question, but, good. Sir, would you, he was asking about the young officer, the 20-year police veteran, any comments to her comments?
Yeah, you didn't get to respond to that, so I wanted to see what your response was.
So, and I partially, you know, I guess indicated what the Northern Kentucky Police Sheriff's Training Center is designed to do. So we are not an academy. It is in fact a training center. So the biggest differentiation there is we do not provide the basic training for the police officers, that initial certification that they have to get. That they do have to go to a basic training academy for. The main basic training academy in the state that covers the city and county agencies and some of the state agencies is Department of Criminal Justice Training in Richmond. So yeah, most of your officers that you're going to see here locally are going to have gone to Department of Criminal Justice Training. The ongoing requirement for somebody to maintain their certification in Kentucky is a minimum of 40 hours of Kentucky Law Enforcement Council certified training, and it's got to be provided by a Kentucky Law Enforcement Council certified instructor, and the curriculum that's presented has to be Kentucky Law Enforcement Council certified. So that is what, as a training center, we are able to do, is we have certified instructors that go ahead and send curriculum down to Kentucky Law Enforcement Council and have it approved during one of their quarterly meetings, and then we are able to present that locally to the officers. Department of Criminal Justice does have some virtual training, and they do travel the state to some extent, They used to have pretty plentiful offerings up here. Boone County was one of their big sites that they would go to a lot. And I don't know why, but it's getting thinner and thinner. I think it may be a combination of they're trying to get some people to go to some of the virtual options that are not near Richmond. But they still do have some traveling sites where they do in-service offerings in the area. It's just not as plentiful as it was before.
This site is actually like a central location for all of them to be able to come.
Correct.
Phyllis, I see you, sir. Phyllis, you've had your head up, and I'm sorry.
That's all right. Thank you, Mayor. My name is Phyllis Sparks, and I'm a business owner here. And I've lived in Walton for, gosh, since I was 16 years old. Business owner for over 35. I came here to talk about Dr. Odell Owens. And try not to get emotional. Dr. Odell Owens was a friend of mine, and he was my doctor. I met him in the late 80s when he started his infertility clinic in Cincinnati. By 1993, nearly 30 years ago, we had our first child. That was a long time ago, 30 years. During that time, Dr. Owens was so excited to tell me that he bought this property here in Walton. And I was so excited to think that he could be part of this community. Because if you've never met this man, he's by far the most amazing. Involved in everything. Sat on every board that you can imagine in the tri-state area, including the Red Cross, including the Northern Kentucky Greater Cincinnati Airport, including hospitals, including the Fires Foundation, which I happened to look up, that he sat on for many years. And since 2010, that foundation raised $275,000 since 2010 to provide training and equipment and things that were needed not only for Cincinnati, but for the greater Cincinnati area. $275,000. I'm sure he paid in taxes on that property that supported this city, our school, and everything, our fire department, everything, just in taxes alone. And then he gave this city the greatest gift, that land, 54 acres. And when you think about the things that he was involved in, with public service was his #1 goal in life, to say that he mattered, that he did something well for this city, for any city, for everything that he was involved in. So we're given this great gift, and the fire department, I think, is a fantastic idea. And I know for a fact Dr. Owens would be so excited about that. The police training, I had to learn more about. And if you don't know me, I've been involved in county politics for many, many years. I even ran for state senate last year. You may remember that. So I called my good friend Les Hill, Colonel Les Hill, Chief Deputy Sheriff in Boone County, and I asked Les, what do you think of this training center, Les? Where are you and the sheriff on this? And he said, we fully support it. We need it. And 5 to 10 years from now, it will be the state-of-the-art facility that will benefit this region greatly. And we talked about it for a while. And I said, well, I'm reading on social media, and I don't want to lose any of my friends and supporters in here, but I read on social media all of these things that could possibly be a negative for our community. And he said, I think a lot of that is misinformation. He said, there's not going to be people at this facility every day of the week, every week of the month, and every month of the year. It's not set up that way. But it could benefit our region because we would not have to send officers so far away and take time off for a longer period of time because they have to go so far away to address your concern. And I'm sorry I don't know you, and thank you for your service. But I talked to our sheriff, and it's chief deputy sheriff, elected officials in this county that we put into office every 4 years. And they want this facility. I believe them and I trust them. And when I got off the phone with Les, I had one final thought with him. I said, Les, we've seen far too many times over the past years when things go wrong with our police officers, when things go wrong and someone is lost, something terribly bad happens. The first thing we do is rise up and say, we need better training. We need more training for these officers so mistakes like that don't happen. I don't think that we should stand in the way of that training. Thank you for your time. Thank you for allowing me to speak. And I hope that we all remain, I appreciate everyone. I really do. Thank you very much.
Jen, yeah, go ahead.
You're wonderful, Phyllis. I moved to Walton. I actually came from Pendleton County. I grew up here, but brought my husband and son back to Walton for the phenomenal school district. So I've been here for 6 years, and my son's just doing great. But one of the most disturbing things that's happened since I've lived here is, I don't know if you all recall this or not, when this gentleman was in a car at a gas station and he pulls a gun out on the Boone County Sheriff's Department because he stops him. No fatalities happened that day. Our Sheriff's Department did an amazing job. And how well they were trained to handle that situation. And that perpetrator has a chance to change his life, you know, start over, do his time. The officers have their lives. These are situations that I want to see more of in the future, good outcomes. So the training that you are providing produces that kind of outcome for Northern Kentucky, then I welcome it.
Hey, more question? I think we've gone beyond questions. We're more.
This one here just answered a bunch of the questions. Because my biggest concern was how the family felt about, you know. I mean, I know they brought Chris in tonight and talked about it, and I was just wondering, I was going to ask you what the rest of the family thought about it, but after hearing your point there.
It was an amazing man.
There's been a lot of people, it's been about a 9-1 against the park online, what I've seen. But this woman here just sold it to me, you know. The thing that one other thing I had to point, who was the contact person for the article in Cincinnati.com that, because they don't just write those articles on themselves, somebody else, either Dr. Owens or somebody from the city.
I contacted Chris Mayhew with Dr. Owens. You know, part of the agreement was we wouldn't you know, publicize it without Dr. Owens' permission. Dr. Owens agreed to let's do a story about it. I called. I had some dealings and some relations, you know, years past with the city with Chris Mayhew that at the time wrote for the Inquiries, now with the DAV now.
Well, I think that the way that article, you know, said nothing but a park, nothing but, that's why you got all this opposition against it right now, because that's the only thing that the citizens have ever been told about that property. There's going to be a park, there's going to be a park, there's going to be a park. And now all of a sudden it's something. That's why you're having the backlash.
I can understand that. I certainly understand that aspect. You know, and as I alluded to earlier, you know, we did specifically write it out as public purpose. You know, and there was always the thought that, you know, the city may have a need there. That was something, you know, Dr. Owens was adamant about. More so, he was adamant about, you know, not wanting this land to be sold off to a private, you know, to a business or, it could never be anything other than public use. So I understand that. I did say that in that article. And it's absolutely still going to be a park. It's still going to be Dr. Odell Owens Park. This is just a part of, an adapting plan. But, from what you see with the remaining 40-something acres, I'm actively working on it. I'm meeting Thursday with a gentleman to go, number 15 area here, that the treed-in area. I'm meeting with a gentleman that runs a lot of disc golf tournaments and has been had his hand in designing disc golf courses. We're going to go tour this area and see if can't come up with some sort of design. I've partnered with Fish and Wildlife. We did a shock of the lake test last year or so. And once the city got through with the dredging project for I call it the finger, I call everything the finger or the thumb, but the finger on the northern section where we dredged that out to where you could no longer walk across it. Fish and Wildlife, the head biologist came down, did I see, sir, did an analysis. We did a complete chemical kill, no harm to anything other than fish. It just doesn't allow their oxygen to process through their gills.
I'm sorry, Mayor, with all due respect. As I walked out to move my car, because I had someone blocked in, there were several that stopped me that said they left because they don't have a chance to talk. This is their opportunity to. And we're not here to talk about the developing pieces of the park. It's really.
Well, I think it's part of the puzzle, and the gentleman asked about the park. So if you'll allow me to continue telling him what's going on here real quick, briefly. Thank you, Councilwoman. We have Fish and Wildlife is very much going to be a Fins park that is scheduled. Fish and Wildlife, after we did the chemical kill, came in September, stocked bluegill and catfish. Last Friday, they came and stocked 1,000 largemouth bass. This coming Friday, they'll be bringing a few grass carp to help maintain the algae. And once we have this opened, for the public, plan being to let the fish grow for maybe a year while we do some cleaning up and at least make it accessible as a start. Then they will come and they will stock trout annually and other fish as needed, every so often bass, bluegill, restocking the population. But you had a question? I got you part of it.
I was just going to ask if it was going to be a Fins.
Yes, sir. Very much so. Jennifer, I saw it. Actually, he was first. I get you. Let me write that. Sir, go ahead real quick.
Yeah, back to my question earlier. Like I said, we've all voiced our opinions, but what's going to come next after this?
Well, it comes to a vote from council. I don't, I brought the idea forth to them, along with, any other thing, pretty much. So ultimately, whenever an idea comes through or a plan comes through, it's ultimately up to council to vote. So that'll be the next step on this. Council has heard your opinions and are going to continue to hear your opinions. And ultimately, next Tuesday, we'll come to the vote, and we'll go from there. Jennifer, and then Barb, I believe. Go ahead, Jennifer.
The Owens family, I know Dr. Owens' son is here tonight. Does he live here, or any of the Owens family? And then I think Mrs. Sparks up there spoke out to, are these people citizens? Because I know that working here or having a business here is one thing. I work here, Owens live here too. But I think some of us have a hard time when people say what's best for Walton, who aren't actually living in the county, within the city limits. Because this is our home, this is where we live, we're the ones who are gonna have to see, hear, and experience this, no matter what it becomes. Just wanted to clarify, are any of those people living within city limits?
For the Owens family?
Yes.
No. Chris lives in Covington, I believe, and the late Mrs. Owens lives in Cincinnati. But, Barb.
Okay, you just stated that you have somebody coming to look at this Area 15 to
discussed, what kind of golf?
Disc golf.
But wasn't it said earlier that that area has already been proposed to the fire department? And that unless this,
Very small
Fire
portion
and-
of this area is what's currently designated. Actually, if you can visualize that, there would still be this and this. So yes, that will be noted when we look at it.
I mean, it sounds like it's already a done deal, that that's not gonna be there, it's gonna be up here, and you're gonna do the disc golf thing all through Area 15, is what it
Well,
appears to be.
I don't know all through Area 15, but that's a section where it would be. I mean, disc golf could be, I don't know, you've seen it at the Walton Park, I assume?
No, I don't do disc golf, but no, I haven't seen
Not big into parks, are you?
it. Golf is what for,
Well, it's a basket, you throw a Frisbee at it, and you start from a certain point. And it goes all the way around the park. So a disc golf, the idea with this area is that, depending on how it would look or, what the guy comes up with, would be connecting trails to go through there more so than anything. If the fire training facility's there, obviously you're not going to go through the fire training facility. You might have to throw your Frisbee a little higher, but no, we're going to work within the parameters of this area is more so what this is. The disc golf part is a very small footprint.
So my other comment.
I see you, ma'am. Go ahead. Say what? Barb, go ahead.
Okay, my other comment was, I seen it on Facebook that this meeting was gonna be held, as long as, Foxter, a lot of them here did too. But, a lot of people don't have internet, let alone be on Facebook. So maybe next time something important like this is gonna come up, maybe something could go in the water bill or something to all of the residents so everybody knows about it. Not just the ones that are fortunate enough to hear.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think a lot more people would have been here that was gonna be impacted had they known about it.
You had your hand up, you, and then Tootie, and Jamie, I see you. So, say what?
Mr. Wainwright.
Where's, yes, ma'am.
You seem like you're frustrated.
No, I'm not frustrated at all. I'm having a hard time keeping up with who's got their hand raised. I need a moderator.
I have been living in Walton only for 5 years. My time here in Walton, it's not been well. There's been nothing but construction. My name is Jerry Farmer. I don't know if that rings a bell to you. But my house is flooded twice with sewage. So you're talking about having all these changes to the power, which is supposedly the reason why my house is flooded twice in less than a year with sewage. Then you're adding additional sewage. So in my mind, I want to know this isn't going to affect whatever the fix I just found out about tonight. And then you do say also that you'll put stuff in writing, but I'm asking you to put in writing that my house isn't going to flood anymore, and I get no response.
Ma'am, this is a public forum and discussion of this. As far as,
Well, this has to do with.
well, and I will tell you, ma'am, I don't know that we've had those discussions about saying anything in regards to your house is not flooded. I believe since we're,
Oh, I brought this up several times.
well, must have been another mayor because it wasn't me.
It was at last week's council meeting that you happened not to be at.
Yes.
You were on the phone. So it was brought up.
Yep, very much so, ma'am.
I said that if my house floods again, I want the city to purchase my house in fair market value.
Okay.
Because it's not my fault, my house is flooding with sewage. I didn't do anything. So if you're gonna sit in here and say that you're gonna put in writing that what is, I'm bringing up the fact that I'm asking for something in writing that I'm getting an answer on. Nobody has called me. I was promised I would be contacted about my issue last week. I'm here this week, and the only reason I've heard anything is thankfully Giovanna let me know that they believe it's taken care of. That's the only reason I know. There was no call.
Ma'am, we've always believed it was taken care of. Every time, the previous time that this happened, we took steps, we took some great steps. Your house was also built below a pump station. We didn't put a pump station in front of your
How was
house.
that approved? That shouldn't have been approved.
Boone County Planning and Zoning, Boone County Building Inspectors.
Do I need to go back to them and the builder about this?
Well, your builder's the one that put the house in.
Because it keeps, the buck keeps.
Ma'am, there is a fix, and we'll talk about that, but another date. But I do believe that we ultimately have a fix, and I believe also with the sewer line project that's highlighted on here will add to that. One fix is temporarily is in now, or is on the way to being installed now. But, you know, that's not what tonight's discussion is for, but I appreciate you.
Actually, it is, because when you're changing, you guys have told me the reason why my house flooded twice is because of power outages. So if you're changing the structure of the power in this area, and you're also changing the sewage, what is it gonna do? How is that gonna affect other people? Because it may not affect me in the future, but I guarantee you these changes can very well affect somebody else. And I have 3 autoimmune disorders and asthma, and I've had to live in raw sewage. I don't wanna see other people have to go through changes that you guys are making that are going to affect their homes the way I have.
Well, I don't recall at any point tonight discussing or talking about changing power anywhere in this.
Yes, you did.
Okay,
You said even from Walton, and that's where she lives. You're gonna
Well, I live on
the
Jensen.
sewer. You just put a generator up there, that's a temporary fix.
no, generator is a backup. I still don't recall saying anything about changing any power.
You said sewer.
There's a sewer line.
So that makes, that was
And that Duke Energy was contacted about changing.
Ma'am, I cannot help a few things. I can't help if some guy from Cincinnati Bell knocks out a power line, and I can't help anything beyond, I can't help how your house was built. I can't help that there's no backflow preventer on your house, which should have absolutely been installed, being below a pump station. The only thing I can control is what we can control, which the last time it happened, prior to this, we put a bypass in. Okay? That should have done everything. So somebody knocking out the power and tripping the breakers with a sudden surge from Aosta Valley.
Do you know what kept my house from flooding with just the furnace room? My father put a plug in. I have on my house my sub pump, I have a backup battery, I also have a line on that backup battery that if my sub pump stops working, water's still going out. Why does a homeowner have that? Why doesn't the city have a fix on that sub pump, or not sub pump, I'm sorry, sewage pump, where is the same issues gonna happen when all of this is built? Where other people are gonna have the same issue that I and 2 of my other neighbors have had living in the area that we do. Like, it's just really, like, I had a realtor come in last Friday, and she pretty much told me if I don't get it in writing that this isn't gonna happen anymore, I can't sell my house.
I apologize to interrupt, because we did cover this last week at the council meeting. Unfortunately, the mayor wasn't here. He was on vacation, however, he did join by phone and tried to answer. I know, too, that Mr. Duncan had shared with council that contact had been made, so hopefully that resolution is there, but obviously it's not for this forum, and I...
Contacted me. And my point, I'm just asking, like, these changes that we're speaking of being made to the power and sewage, how is it gonna affect people in this area? Is it gonna affect them the same way that is happening to me? I think that's a little...
There's no changes to the power, first off. Second, there is a line, no, I said that there was a power line running through the front of the park
Duke Energy about how to change that.
to move a line. There is no change in voltage. There is.
Changing.
Oh, well, you got me there. You know, no, we are not changing any power grid structure. We're not doing anything. And the sewer line is, that's running through this park property, that's being proposed. Yes, one, it should stop that from ever happening in the future in your house, but we're gonna have it fixed for that. In the meantime, this is more and has been on the books for a few years, at least planned, for the advancements and the continued growth of Aosta Valley and Mullen Drive. We've got a big station going to a little station. This is a long-term deal. So no, if anything, this will improve the city's infrastructure, at least from a sewage standpoint, all the way around, which, you know, I am sympathetic to your problems, and I do understand, and I do believe that the city is trying and has done our best to work with you. And with that being said,
John
Wainwright has one too, and somebody else had their hand. Go ahead, John. Damn it, no. Andy, go ahead. You've raised your hand 20 times. Paul, I'm sorry, I didn't mean. My bad, Paul.
Well, maybe you should like let the city know how it's gonna be beneficial for the city, you know what I mean? Like how much money it's gonna bring in, like you're gonna run like a business, right? Like Kent County's gonna come in and pay, right?
No.
For your guys, you're in Boone County, you're gonna pay to use the facility, right?
Yeah, so all the police agencies that are part of Northern Kentucky Police Sheriff's Training Center do pay a fee to be part of that training center.
What does that mean to Walton? How does that equate?
Money wise, yeah, it's gonna be run like a business, right? Double down.
No.
You gotta double down.
So
Zero. There's no revenue coming in.
Yes.
Doesn't receive that?
Zero.
Won't from the fire district either.
No.
Well, it's been asked twice tonight in two different ways. It's been asked, how does this benefit the taxpayers? And you've not gotten a straight answer, in my opinion. We get police presence. So just keep asking the question, how does this?
Like, hey, we run like a business, like it would create revenue for the city, or some kind of kickback, or the state would fund something to us. That's what I thought.
You gotta tell us how much it's gonna cost the taxpayer. It's not build it and then find out later. It doesn't work that way.
I do believe I've addressed that we are not paying to build this.
Yeah, it's not gonna cost the taxpayers anything, but the taxpayers are not gonna get a cent from it. No. It's all just imaginary. It is, they coming into the Shell station, filling up gas, going to Bailey Jane's, getting donuts. That is the benefit to the city financially. Now, it's got a whole, in Gabe's opinion, a whole shit ton of great benefits for the department and all that stuff, but financially, nada. So, they'll be in charge of all of that.
Well, the maintenance, that very well, is more in the details as far as whether that's city maintaining, there will be a maintenance schedule. If the city's conducting the maintenance, then yes, that will not be, on the taxpayers' dollar. John and Tootie, you want to fight Tootie for it? Go ahead, Tootie.
Are you gonna say something?
Yeah.
Well, say it.
I'm surprised he hasn't yet.
Well,
It's the quietest he's been in his life.
I just try to listen. So let me ask you this. So when was the fire ordinance passed that we gifted the land to you guys?
It was late last year. We didn't gift it. We just agreed to lease it to them.
Agreed to lease.
Yes.
For a year. So it's been a year. So I think I voted on that to pass that. So I was for it, and I still am. So just for the room.
why hasn't it been signed? Like, if we passed it, and they said thank you, and we were gonna build it, and then why wouldn't immediately after we pass legislation like everything else, 30 days post, why wouldn't you guys both sign it and move on? Or
There was a lease agreement being worked out, I do believe, and I don't think we had everything between the fire district's attorney's needs and our needs worked out as far as the lease agreement until maybe a month ago or so.
Well, that was all worked out, but the police thing came up in between, and
There's the
it would
answer.
not have been appropriate to go ahead with that.
right, so that's
To
kind
listen.
of my point. And again, I'm not speaking for or against this project. So I just wanted that to be known. Sometimes I think everyone thinks I'm always fighting the mayor on things. So in this one, I'm neither for or against. I'm here to really listen. That was the question, what takes a year to figure it out, right? At least of a simple, you're gonna take over this land and build a facility that we all talked about, and then you find out, no, I didn't sign it because, 9 months ago or 8 months ago, we found out police, and now it just came, so I think the council probably should have known a little bit earlier than they do now. If that had been going on for a long time, that's the reason we weren't gonna sign the lease, because we thought possibly we could have a joint facility. Probably should have shared the information, you can probably have less pushback. So let me ask you this, have we committed any tax revenue in the '24 budget for this project?
No, other than the money that we've committed to the property around immediately around the lake, as far as,
So the lake.
yes.
So if you cut that picture in half, you'd say, on the left side of the picture, we have tax revenue associated with it for development, and on the right side, you'd say, in the '24 budget, I have nothing.
Fair assessment.
I say that just because there's been a lot of confusion, I think, in the room today on how it's gonna get paid for, right? And so this is not a Walton project. We're
No.
not funding it, we're not taking money in for it. This is strictly on, let's just say, the tenant to find funding, build out, maintain and control the process of that facility. And then, but then also, you're gonna say that they are in charge for any infrastructure development, so expanding of Powell, are they gonna be on for any of the expansion of the water line out there? Because I know obviously it wouldn't go out there unless that facility was there, so we're already putting through sanitary sewer, right, the original plan. So any of the build out past that, is that gonna be on them as well?
Build out past
So
the facility?
To that facility.
No, that's the way I imagine it, yes.
So again, I think it's important to call out that if this is gonna be a leaser agreement, that what they're on the hook for is what the residents are on the hook for, right? And I think coming out and saying, there's no tax dollars going to this piece of property, either infrastructure related, water sewer related, or annual upkeep related, I think that's important to call out so that the room understands what the impacts are.
Fair enough.
And then lastly, just, is there any going to be training in the evening time, or is it more just 9 to 5, a couple days a week, or is there nighttime training that's going to be done on the property?
I cannot speak to the police, I wouldn't be able to speak to them. But as far as the fire training side, I will say 99% of the training is during, I'll say, reasonable daytime hours. We are required to do what they call low light training twice a year, but that's not 3 a.m. training, okay? That may be, 6, 7, 8 o'clock, whenever it gets dark earlier in the day is when we try to do those trainings. And so, consideration to our neighbors, if this become a reality, would definitely be a concern that would be on the forefront of our minds.
And I'll echo what Chief Vest said. It's kind of the same with us. The training center is typically like a 9 to 5, 8 to 4 operation. There are occasional low light training needs, but we typically try and reserve those for the times of year where, it's getting dark at 6 o'clock, so that we try and wrap those up by 7, 8 o'clock. But we can certainly put stipulations on anybody that's going to use those beyond normal business hours is conscious of, the side effects to doing training later in the evening.
And then just my last statement, I would, no matter if it passes or doesn't pass by the council, I would ask you to consider adding future legislation to no more expansion of the development property outside of that form up there or park. So whether it passed or not, I would ask you to include that in the legislation.
And I'm in total favor of that, John.
So how much does it cost to send one individual, one head to training per day? Not travel, just the cost of training.
Cost of training for Department of Criminal Justice training?
Yeah, give me a range.
It does not cost anything. It's covered by something called the CLEF fund. So it does not cost the agency money to enroll the officer in training.
How much does the county pay or is allocated for one head to be trained?
As far as all-inclusive costs, so lodging, meals, things like that,
I mean, unless
travel.
you give me not just the physical cost of the training.
It doesn't cost the agency anything.
Okay, all inclusive.
Roughly $500 to $600 per week.
Per week.
So you could say $100 a
When
day.
this is done, what would be the capacity of how many heads to be trained?
I think the classrooms would maybe be 30,
So annual capacity would be,
depending on how many times you used it. But if we use it 2 weeks out of the month, then we're looking at 60 persons a month. And so 132.
okay, so roughly $500,000 generated, right? Revenue?
So, yeah, we estimate in the association, there's about 800 officers that are covered under the agencies in the association. So if we were to consider $500 per officer, we're looking at $400,000 in expenditures if they were all to go away to training.
Where does that money go with this training?
So that money would be, the agencies would not have to spend the lodging, the per
Where that
diem.
money gets paid to the training facility, does Walton benefit from that?
Not directly.
Well, how it,
Where does that,
It has to go somewhere.
yeah,
It's allocated for something. It's going to use to bring.
where does it go?
As far as what people are paying to be part of the Northern Kentucky Police Sheriff's Training Center,
Either I'm confused or I'm not asking the excess.
the realized savings, sir, as you explained to us, so how would that be reallocated, right? So it's not, because it is multi-county, right? So it's not just Boone County. So you as a Boone County taxpayer would not realize that gain, right? And so he's just asking, how would those funds be reallocated?
well, the potential is that the training budgets could be lowered because of the travels, meals, and expenses aren't going to be as significant as they are going out of town for
But
training.
That's not the question. What's the reallocation? Where does that money go?
That's going to somewhere.
So the budgets can potentially be lowered. So that way there's
Each
less
county keeps their own money instead of spending. Same thing with-
hypothetical.
The King County just keep it by more cruisers.
What they do with it is not what we would
But that's
control.
something that allocated somewhere.
Get more officers, any of that would be my guess.
I would allocate that, like, some of it back to Walton. They're going to save this much money, why don't we benefit from it somehow? Is what I'm saying. Like, instead of paying $500,000 here, it goes back $200,000.
And that could be a discussion with the cities.
So that can be negotiated for to benefit our community.
For us to vote on it, today, to do this.
I see you, Terry, I got you.
Right, that would have to be a conversation between the municipalities or the government
That's not
agency.
common.
No, he said he's got you, Mom. He saw you.
I got you, and I got Jamie too.
We're trying to make, beneficial of Walton. You know what I mean? Why would we, it has to be beneficial.
Right.
You're saying, okay, I'm not.
I get you.
No, and it's a great point. It really is. Like, if there's this realized savings, like, how could that be applied to the people in Walton? How could Walton gain from that? But that's not part of the discussion.
I mean, we're going to get a park, I understand that.
Why is that not a part of the discussion?
That hasn't been. This was just brought to council. Communication's not our strong point. This was just brought to council.
Who's going to be the one to negotiate?
We'll figure it out if it's feasible and it's doable first, it was the primary discussion. But
It's feasible to do it, to get it done, they would negotiate it out. get everybody like, yeah, let's get this done, you know, city's gonna, finish.
Put it back into the schools, doing something that benefits our
We
community.
might get more
And
resources.
they don't have no mind doing, they have no problem doing that, because they're already paying so much money. They're just taking back a little bit.
I got you.
Well, and the lady beside you had asked a question, and I don't think she.
I've got two
that-
on here.
I don't
and-
think your question was ever answered, because you asked, it wasn't. Two questions weren't answered. When you asked, how does it benefit us? And you asked, why would Walton be chosen? Right. Well, it's pretty clear to understand why Walton could be chosen when the land offering is free. So that would raise it to the top of the list, would it not? But there's your answer.
That itself is probably the deciding factor on Walton and not, I mean, there's lots of areas in Northern Kentucky. Why Walton?
And that's part of it. I mean, yeah.
Springfield has donated land. Stepsister of Boone County, let's be honest, I mean, why would? I hate to admit that, but, oh, honey, I've been to 62 years, I've counted all 62. Yeah.
So, but thank you, ma'am.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Tootie, go ahead. Yes.
You know, the thing of it is, you've got a very congested area down here. High Street, Asta Valley, and all these subdivisions are being affected with this. And we don't have the roads for it to begin with. And I really hope that city council will hear the voices of the people, what they want. And they do not want this. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Judy. And I just wanted to, I just thought I understood that you basically, and then I heard Councilwoman Ferry say possibly not. But if we do not go with this police fire combo, then the fire is going to be at the entrance of the park. Is that correct?
The resolution was passed for that, yes, Jamie. But when this discussion was brought to us, because John Wainwright had a great point, like why a year later, or had they not signed, right? Because obviously there were talks in place that we were not privy to. So in speaking with Chief Vest, who's amazing, just recently as this was brought about, and realizing the concerns with the folks on Church Street and the current placement of where the fire facility would be, Chief Vest did state to council that he would be willing to work with us in putting that somewhere else. Now, it was pointed out, and we were aware that it would be less costly for the fire department with the road frontage. It's going to be a lot more costly tucked away in the back corner. But yes, to your point, Jamie, if this did not pass, then I would hope as a council member we can come back together with Chief Vest and do what's right for the people on Church Street.
I mean, I just feel like we're being held hostage, that either we take this fire and police up in this tucked-in rural area, or else everyone on Church Street and Showalter, and I mean, fine citizens on a tiny little narrow street are going to have this fire. You know, that basically we were told, okay, if you don't pick this, we're going to do this, you don't have any say, because we've got you under hostage. And I just feel that's wrong, and I just want to clarify.
Well, and that's how it was presented to you, and that's unfortunate, but that's not the truth, because Chief Vest did state that he would work with us. If this wasn't passed, does it mean that we're absolutely going to change it? No, because we would have to come to that consensus, right? So, but again, he's a good steward of the city, and he is a citizen, and he cares about our community. So if it could be possible to change, I'm sure Chief would be on board.
Okay, thank you. And I do think the fire, I mean, I don't have problems with police. I don't like it here.
Absolutely.
We really belong in Rice County.
Please.
Just to clarify for everyone, a question about why the delay on me and the mayor signing the current resolution. As I stated earlier, I'm not looking just to build a fire training facility to say we got one and we can lower the ISO score and whatnot, okay? There would be benefit to that. I'm looking to maximize the benefit, not to myself or the fire department, but to the community as a whole. And even though the resolution which was passed was being written up and finalized before myself and the mayor signed it, that's when I had got, the idea presented to me of the police training facility being on the back corner of the park. And I mentioned to the mayor, discussed it with the mayor, and he agreed. There would be more of the park encroached on, I'll say, with a fire training facility down here police facility up there and a road connecting the two. And that's when the discussion very recently come about, and it was soon after presented to city council that I was more than willing to decrease the amount of the park that was impacted, open up more of it, and kind of combine the two facilities together. Because the last thing I want, one is to be a problem or a hindrance to those citizens in the immediate area. But also, I would not want a resolution to be signed and completed and finalized. We go out after grants saying, here's the plot of land that we got secured, and we're in the middle of that process, and then all of a sudden, city council says, well, we'll put a police training facility on the backside, and then I'm sitting back saying, I wish I'd known this before we signed that. So I want no regrets for the community and the citizens, but no regrets as far as the fire department's needs as well, because we are here to serve you all. Thank you.
Well, just a suggestion, this can be negotiated a little bit, but, like you say, when we allocated, how about just asking for something simple as a scholarship for some of the Walton students, to go on for the next 15 years, 20 years, to mean that the community is going above and beyond, okay? Why not at least give back to the kids?
Sure.
Ask these, and not just the police departments, but the fire departments, anybody that would be using these facilities, say, hey, Walton is trying to do something good for Northern Kentucky. How about Northern Kentucky setting aside a $50,000 scholarship? And I'm not talking 5,000, I'm not talking 10,000, but these guys are saving hundreds of thousands of dollars. So say 50,000 to get a kid a good start on a 4-year degree somewhere for the next many years, because they're saving a lot of money, and we're the ones who, let's be honest, what exits are they gonna be taking? What exits are they gonna take to get to Percival Way? If they're not coming out 25, they're coming out these two hellacious exits. And I haven't heard any plans coming out at all about improving, just right here between Flying J and Holt is a mess. And that's where, and if we're looking at 2 weeks a month from the police department, and I'm not for sure how many weeks a month from the fire department, they're using those two exits.
Sure.
So maybe an improvement there, but I'm just going to strenuously say, with the hundreds of thousands of dollars that they're saving, surely the police departments and fire departments can set aside $50,000 scholarships for a Walton or not high school student.
May I answer that, Mayor?
Whatever, however they want to do it, let's get a scholarship or something out of it.
The only fire department that I know is when you fire facilities at Walton.
Well,
So they're not going to be that.
well, they're saving $700,000.
Ma'am.
Themselves.
Ma'am, if I may answer your question,
Yeah.
I love the idea. The first problem is legalities. Okay, the fire department is not part of the county's taxing
Well, I'm sure you
district,
guys will
whatnot.
find a way for the
No, ma'am.
I'm sure
Legally, we would not be allowed to do that, number one.
some
I'm trying to answer your question, ma'am. Okay?
I'm not gonna go
I'm not. There's an attorney sitting right here that can back what I'm saying, I'm sure, okay? We are a special taxing district. I can only speak for the fire department, okay? Now, we are a special taxing district, all right? You talk about the money that would be saved. This is currently money that is not spent, okay? Reason being, because I cannot afford to send my personnel to Hebron, Burlington area for this training. So we make do as best we can, and that's what we've done. I'm looking to improve the training, Okay, so it's not money that I'm saving that's currently being spent. I do not have that money to spend now to begin with, so it's not happening. As far as savings, this year, the fire taxes remain the same as they was last year, this upcoming fiscal year, okay? Last fiscal year and the fiscal year previous to that, I went to my board and recommended taxes be lowered. Both years. I've been on the fire department for 30 years, and taxes are now, as far as fire taxes, they are lower now than they've been during my entire time with the fire department. So money saved as far as the fire department, it goes back to you, the citizens, whether that be through equipment, through us lowering taxes. Right now I have 2 fire engines and an ambulance on order. 2 engines cost me, you, the taxpayers, I believe it was $1.3 million for 2 fire trucks. I need a ladder truck, second to the one that we got now, again, for ISO scoring purposes and to get our score down. A ladder truck, 1 truck will cost over $1 million, easy. Okay, we just ordered 1 new ambulance, nothing in it at all, $315,000. These vehicles, they're used, in a very difficult circumstances. They're run hard, and they wear out, and they are very expensive to replace. Again, increasing personnel and staffing, that's very costly. And I do everything that I can to save taxpayers' money and be a responsible steward with how it's spent. But I can assure you, and you can check with an attorney yourself, us being a special taxing district, I cannot take and allocate taxpayer funds to a scholarship to the school, just the same as the city wanting to do the lease with the fire department, and they're not giving us the land because legally they could not give us the land.
We go down to the,
Wait a second, Mayor, don't you allocate the funds to the fire department?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am. We have a fire district. They are separate of the city. They are their own taxing entity.
Look at your property tax bill. Look at your property tax bill. There's library, there's fire, there's county, there's state. They're all on there. So, and they don't share money.
So there's no way to really make any kind of benefit?
The Boone County Works Office collects the taxes, well, they distribute, the sheriff collects it, they distribute the bills. The fire district has its own bill, and the city has its own bill.
Yes.
A community outreach program to involve high schools, not something, I mean, we get to do something.
You have a great point. We talked about this in just the mayor's meeting with council, like how can we give back to the community? One of my suggestions was gun safety program or something for the citizens. If we were to have a police facility, how could we give back, right? So those have been, those ideas were discussed in our initial discussion. Well, you're welcome, thank you. What'd you say?
I don't know what he said. Thank you, buddy. No, I mean,
here's an honest question, man, that's kind of straight going.
no, it's a perfectly good question, and it's something, we really hadn't got into, hey, is this a point of, the intention of, hey, a revenue stream for the city, or how can we do this? I mean, we hadn't even got so far along in those discussions, other than what would it look like leasing the land to you? And is this feasible? I don't know. What's it going to look like? I don't know. Can I get it past will my council be for it? Will the citizens be for it? The point and the starting point for the whole discussion has been, trying to improve the area in which we live, which is Walton, Northern Kentucky, trying to increase public safety throughout. That's where we started at. What the negotiations or any, additional benefit to the city? Sure. I mean, those are all reasonable questions and can reasonably be discussed. I don't know that we're necessarily at that point or anywhere near that. We have, an idea of leasing land and what it should look like.
Additional comment?
So, all right. Do we have more questions? You got you? Yep.
I'm trying to better understand your timeline. So the vote will be this coming week, is that correct?
Tuesday.
Tuesday, okay, so, and as far as the grant approval process, do we know how many grants are needed and what the deadlines for those grants are? Or we don't?
Grant funding is usually May 31st is usually a deadline for grants. They announce, they're pretty much repetitive as far as the grants. And then you have the grant application window. Pretty much now would be the time to start, gathering up your information, getting your plan together. The window usually opens up sometime end of year and runs into May. At least for cities it does. As far as police and fire go, I've never applied for a police or fire grant.
I guess the reason I'm asking is just to understand if it was approved by council and then the grant was approved, when would the construction begin?
Gentlemen, I would say really that's,
If it was approved, if it was approved next Tuesday, grant cycle would happen faster than the ability to have this under construction. So you're probably looking at best case, this thing starting the training side, I can't speak to the park, but for the training side, you're looking at best case 2 years before you're able to even break a shovel in the ground to start building some of these things. So I can't speak to the water lines and all that, but yeah, that's.
I guess just because I'm directly ordering the property.
Sure.
It's good for me to understand how.
Mayor, can I answer the gentleman's questions here?
Yeah.
So, our firm does a lot of public safety around the country, and usually in these, you guys were asking about how these, typically what's done is an interlocal agreement between the different cities, and they would agree on whether, however they structure that would be, do they pay for the upfront cost? Is there a maintenance budget that they allocate money to every year that comes to Walton to help take care of the facility? So those are things that have to be discussed, and the attorneys would get into that in the interlocals. Now, what I've seen in different scenarios where they all pay a certain amount of money every year, it doesn't work well, because then their fiscal courts or their city governments are now telling you what they're going to do and not do. Typically, the best way that I've seen it work is Walton's in control. They're collecting the money from those other entities to put into their funds, and they make all the decisions on what happens here. So that's typically what we see across the nation when this stuff is occurring.
That's what we were asking.
Yeah.
I just heard 10 minutes ago that wasn't possible. But okay.
Some serious administration costs.
Other questions, comments?
Any more questions?
Comments? Anybody have comments without questions?
If anyone didn't get a chance to speak or didn't want to speak, like Terry said, just, you got our emails, send to us, talk to us as much as you want to before next Tuesday. I just want everybody to have their voice heard.
I agree, and I can't thank you enough for being here. It's so important that you're involved in the process, because this is your city, right? And we represent you, so thank you for coming tonight.
Yes, ma'am. One more question.
I'm grateful for this whole meeting and everybody's time. If there were to be an issue with the police, what would be my enforcement action? Or who would I address? Because I know, we can say, as a parent, I can say, my children won't be loud. But, a lot of times I just have to with the police. We don't always have control over other people's offices involved in those sort of things. And so who would I go to address these issues?
You would do that with the city. You can lodge a complaint that it would be violating an ordinance, right? Just like Waltzilla or whatever we call the big hairy guy, you know. And so if it's violating the noise ordinance, then you can absolutely lodge a complaint with City Hall.
Is that a county ordinance or a city?
It's a city ordinance.
City ordinance. Okay. Any further questions, comments?
Well, I just want to ask this. I remember you from third grade. You were a cute little thing.
Oh, Lord.
Are you insinuating she's not now?
Oh, he's not. She's talking to the mayor. So I'm questioning her memory.
I'm still cute. What do you mean? No.
Well, I just want to ask you, the meeting next week, we are allowed to come, right?
Absolutely, it's a public meeting. I wish more people would come.
And I just want to say this, the last thing is, you all said, one of you said, that you represent us, our will, right?
That's right.
Okay, I'm going to be there when you all vote yes or no. I just want you to know that.
Thank you.
So just remember that you are representing us. That's all I have to say. Thank you, Gabe.
Come
You're
next
welcome,
week.
Ms. Canaster.
Yeah,
All right?
Motion to adjourn?
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Rose.